Hello, ladies and gentlemen. In the beginning, before the worlds were made, long before the stars burned and the earth stood firm, before the rivers flowed and the mountains rose high, before even time itself, there was only God. He was not born, nor was he made, for he is beyond all beginnings and endings. He was, and he is, and he will be forevermore. But among the hosts of heaven and the minds of men, a question arose: if God created all things, then who created God? And so a disciple of wisdom, a young man named Elias, traveled far and wide, seeking the answer. He walked through valleys where the shepherds kept their flocks, and he sat in the courts of the wise men. He asked the teachers of the law and the elders of the synagogues, but none could answer fully. They all spoke in part, and their wisdom was not complete. One day, Elias came to an old prophet named Simeon, who had long waited for the fulfillment of God's promises. He sat beneath a great olive tree, where the branches spread wide like the hands of God covering the earth. Elias bowed low and asked, "O teacher of wisdom, if God created all things, then who created God?" Simeon smiled, for he had seen many young men ask such questions, and he spoke gently, "Come, my son, and let us consider the things of heaven and earth." The parable of the endless light. Simeon took a small lamp and set it before Elias. He lit the lamp, and the flame danced upon the oil, casting a warm glow in the dim evening. "Tell me, young Elias, where does this light come from?" "It comes from the oil, which feeds the fire," Elias answered. "And where does the oil come from?" Simeon asked. "It comes from the olive trees, which grow in the land." "And where does the tree come from?" "From the seed, which was planted in the earth." "And where does the earth come from?" Simeon asked again. "God created the heavens and the earth," Elias answered, for he had read it in the Holy Scriptures. Simeon nodded. "Then tell me, if all things must come from something before them, must not the light of God come from something before him?" Elias hesitated. "Surely, if all things come from something else, then God must come from something greater. But is there anything greater than God?" Simeon smiled. "You have spoken truly. God is not like the things of this world, which have a beginning and an end. The tree must come from a seed, and the seed from the earth. But God is not a tree, nor a seed, nor the earth. He is beyond them all. He is as the flame that has no beginning, the fire that has always burned, and from him all things have received their light. Jesus, the Word who was with God." Then Simeon spoke of the Messiah, saying, "In the fullness of time, God sent his Son into the world, not as one who was created, but as the Word that was with him from the beginning. For it is written, 'In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.'"
Jesus, the Son, did not begin as man begins. He was not formed as the clay is shaped by the potter's hand. He was before time, before the stars, before the earth. He is the very breath of God, the life and the light of men. Elias listened, his heart burning within him. "Then Jesus is not created as we are." "No, my son," Simeon said, for he said, "Before Abraham was, I am." He spoke as the Eternal One, for he is God, who was and is to come. He entered the world, taking upon himself the form of man, but he himself had no beginning. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation, and through him all things were made. Simeon continued, "There was a time when men walked in darkness, unable to see the truth. They sought wisdom in the stars, in the movements of the earth, and in the words of men, but none could grasp the fullness of God. Then God sent his Son, the very light of heaven, to show the world what was hidden. He came as a man, but he was no mere man. He walked among us, healed the sick, raised the dead, and forgave sins, proving that he had authority beyond all creation." Elias pondered these words and said, "Then God is without beginning and without end. He simply is." "Yes, my son," Simeon said, "that is the mystery of the Almighty, the one whom no man created, for he is the source of all that is. The grand design of creation. Simeon saw that Elias still wrestled with the depth of this truth, and so he continued, "Consider the heavens above. The stars shine, yet they burn out in time. The mountains stand tall, yet they crumble with the years. The rivers run, but they dry up. Everything in this world changes, but God does not. If he were created, he too would change, but he is the same yesterday, today, and forever." Elias nodded slowly. "If he were created, then he would not be God." "Exactly," Simeon affirmed. "We call him the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Not because he has a beginning, but because he is the source of all things. He is not bound by time, for time itself is his creation." Elias then asked, "But why did God create us? If he needs nothing, why make the world?" Simeon looked to the sky and said, "Love. For love does not seek to be alone. God is love, and out of love, he created us not because he needed us, but because he desired to share his glory. Just as a father delights in his children, so does God delight in those who seek him. And though mankind strayed, he sent Jesus, his son, to bring us back." Elias felt a great peace settle over his heart. He understood that he had been searching for a question that needed not an answer, but faith. Some mysteries were too vast for human minds, but they could be known through faith in the one who made all things.
The lesson. And the more Elias left the prophet that night, and as he walked beneath the heavens, he looked up at the stars, which burned in the great expanse. He knew that each star had a birth, that they came from fire and would one day fade away. But beyond the stars was the one who made them, the one who had no birth, no fading, no end. And so he went forth, no longer asking, "Who created God?" but instead proclaiming, "God is, and there is none like him." The lesson was clear. Not all things must have a beginning, for there is one who stands outside time and creation. He is the uncaused cause, the everlasting light, the Father of all that is. And through his Son, Jesus Christ, he has made himself known to the world, that all who seek may find, and all who ask may receive. Thus, let the wise remember, the mind of man cannot contain the fullness of God, but the heart of faith may receive him, for he is, and that is enough.